Hello, Commanders. It has been a minute since I last elucidated mine use, and with some recent developments to how mines are balanced, I figured it'd be worth covering the topic again. Unlike my prior lecture, if the tuna JPEG on screen wasn't a clue, I'm going without slide decks this time, and talking less about the theory and more about the practical usage of mines for this one. A lot of theory of mines in Nebulous from the original lecture is still valid, so don't go throwing your notes out yet. I'll point out the differences as we go. But, as a quick refresher, let's talk about our tools of the trade again. The M30 is the most base model of Mattock, equipped with a magnetic detector that gets a 2-kilometer range, and an active radar seeker that homes onto the target with a 1.75-kilometer range. The engine of the Mattock provides a 3.75-kilometer range with a top speed of 250 meters a second. Mattocks like this pack a pretty nasty payload, a high explosive warhead that does 50 rays of 100 damage, which makes it a lot more lethal than its missile-borne counterpart, which only gets 50 damage per ray. The N variant of the M30 provides additional networking capabilities. When one mine activates, it sympathetically activates additional mines in its vicinity. This ensures increased target saturation. Now the premium mine in the family is the M50 Auger. While its sensor package and warhead are identical to the M30 series, its improved engine design provides for an extra 100 meters of range, all while improving its top speed to an impressive 700 meters a second. Those who watched the mine lecture or read the original mine guide know that my recommendation was volume, to best penetrate the point defense nets of the enemy and resist standoff clearing. However, our main adversary, the Mark 20 Defender, has had a lead algorithm bug fixed, and has resultingly become an absolute monster against mines in the open. It took out a good chunk before. Now a ship can flank speed into an open field and kill just about every mine in it. Thankfully, mines have been updated as well. They take up less space, and importantly, they don't detonate on contact with rocks anymore. Those who saw my older material will remember what I called nested mines, placing mines as close to the rock as possible and especially in divots. These types of mine placement have become the mainstay method of mine deployment and have earned a few other names. I've seen them called surface traps, barnacles, and other nicknames. I'll just be calling them nested mines since, I was doing it before it was cool. These nested mines allow for small clusters of sprints to do rather lethal damage to cappers and other vessels due to their close activation range, limited reaction time, and resistance to clearing from standoff angles. This is mainly due to RPF and anti-missiles fusing against the rock, especially at more oblique angles. The focus on traps and LCMLs, slow capacity mine layer for those who missed the lecture, means that cooperative and sprint mines are now the primary deployed mine type. Base Mattocks being reserved mainly for uses I'll get into later.
Firing missiles.
So, now you know how we're placing mines, but what about where? Well, for that, let's get out of the classroom. And let's go on a field trip. Welcome to our first and most popular stop, Pillars. This map has some good demonstrative traps that we're going to take a look at to show the principles. Now we've got a trap set up here on the E point. This is a good spot in particular to show off what I call filtering, which is having multiple traps to protect a single point. I call it filtering because its goal is to protect a larger field from activating against smaller hulls. You place a larger trap, let's say 10 mines in this instance, and then a smaller 5-mine trap along a common approach angle. The smaller trap will activate and, hopefully, kill smaller hulls like corvettes before they reach the main trap and activate it. This protects the integrity of the more expensive trap and saves it for larger hulls, like Foxholes, Axfords, even Solomons. Not to mention, people assume there's just one trap and only the one trap an awful lot of the time, so they're going to be more inclined to rush onto the point after activating one with a Corvette. While we're here, I just wanted to show this spot in the donut. It's a pretty nasty spot in particular because it's hidden from just about every approach that you can take onto the point. These are the sorts of spots you want to be looking for out in the wild. Welcome to our next stop, and I hope you brought some warm clothes because it's the icy map Yukon. Or Yukon. Probably Yukon. This map's got a good showing of another way of trapping points. Here on Yukon's D point, this is an example of a slightly less hidden but no less useful field. The nice thing about these traps is the main angle they're exposed to is your own team's spawn, which is an unlikely approach angle for the enemy. Most folks approaching from the enemy side of the map won't see the trap until it's too late, and you can even mine the opposing face like this, which ensures that no matter what side the enemy hugs, they're always going to have mines activating very close to them. Our final stop for the day is Caltrop, another icy map that people have, let's say, mixed opinions on, though personally I do rather like Caltrop. We're here today to look at some more creative spots using the unique map geometry to give you some ideas. Right up on top of the caltrop at the A point, there's two good spots here. Both of these traps constrain maneuver around the top of the map and protect the point, though the trap on the right is much more so than the one on the left. The trap directly on the A point will protect from capping attempts while remaining largely concealed and protected from enemy fire, while the trap on the side will thwart flanking attempts and assassinate vessels fairly reliably. Down here on D, you can see some use of the ice spikes to hide mine behind cover that enemies would not normally expect mines. Unlike the blind corners and large rocks of some of the other placements we've seen so far, this spike conceals the mines in an otherwise open approach, and enemies are less likely to suspect a trap here. You can also see some other secondary traps on the ice spike a bit further back here. Those are less protective of the cap as they don't cover all the angles, but they do provide some amount of protection, particularly from below, or provide a means of killing ships rotating from D to the bottom of the caltrop. And lastly, there's these mines here in the crack. These are just about useless, but I wanted to show it as a very unexpected spot for mines. They can activate and kill folks going over or under them, and are pretty much undetectable until they activate from every angle. Keep an eye for these kind of spots, and you're pretty set as a mine layer. And lastly, while we're here, I just wanted to show this cozy little cave by the 8 point. It's adorable. You can even put mines here, and it's a very nice spot for an ambush. Now that we've visited a few maps and seen some traps, you've seen where you can deploy mines as a powerful tool. So next time you load into a game, you can settle down nice into the backline, place some traps, and remember that mines are a defensive tool that should only be employed at a safe distance to permit its arming time.
Are you laying mines around him?
Yes.
Under fire.
Just like a spider laying eggs in your chest.
Mine bombing heard that last paragraph, laughed, and then blew up its house. Remember those
Solution
100 damage rays from Mine Anatomy? This allows mines to break damage thresholds, even on reinforced components and capital ships.
Solution locked in.
The only thing mines can't kill is capital large reinforced drives. Anything else is game. This permits a slightly unhinged tactic of using mines as finishers of vessels you nominally can't kill. Cripple them with rocket fire, gunfire, or regular missiles, and drop some mines around them and stand clear. Once the mines activate, odds are they get sent to life pods real quick. This is also where those base Mattocks come into best form. M30s are now 1 point cheaper than cooperative mines, which means if you want to bomb someone, they're the most cost-efficient option. While this may seem, and indeed is, a wildly impractical tactic, it does have its uses. I figure an opportunity for mine bombing probably comes up in 10% of games, but when you do it, oh boy, is it something else. There is something so utterly disrespectful about dropping a mine on someone saying, I know this is going to kill you in 2 minutes, and then just leaving. That is both incredibly funny and is an instant ticket to psyoping the enemy team. They will be upset by this. It is a traumatic event. Folks are going to curse you out in the Discord for doing it, but honestly, it's just too funny. Even the victims will laugh about it once you give them some time. Just remember that this falls apart pretty quickly if the enemy gets point defense back online. They do need to be pretty damaged for it to work, so attempts to force mine bombing against only temporarily damaged targets are generally ill-advised. You can use your own hull to try to block point defense fire from the mines, but you do need to get out of the way before they activate, or else you're going to bomb yourself. So use that with some caution. Mine bombing is also a fantastic use case for mine containers off of container liners. Either follow up your own or other strikes with mine containers around the hull to crack damage thresholds and send them to life pods. The CLN can do this from across the map, no need to be near the target like you do with an ML9, and can even drop more mines onto them using a salvo. Instead of, say, 5 mines from an ML9, CLNs can drop 10 or 20 onto an enemy fairly practically, which minimizes their chance of getting away alive. Also, as a quick tangent, you can utilize containerized mines to set up what I call tripwire traps. These aren't inherently trying to kill anything, though bonus points if it happens. But basically, you use the ease of deployment from the container mines to set up these little 2 to 4 Mattock pockets around the map. When they activate or get destroyed by something, it gives you a clue that enemies are in the area, which helps warn about ambushes and gives you a bit of intel. As another quick note with mine bombing, new tech, trademark, has been discovered with the change to how ML9 to handle ammo swaps. If you don't want to drop a full 5 mines on someone, you can swap to a second mine type mid-deployment, and this will stop the ML9 from firing more than whatever it's done already. This lets you select anywhere from 1 to 4 mines to deploy, at least as long as you have a second mine type in the magazines. Now that we've covered using mines, we gotta talk about delivery vehicles. There's 2 main archetypes of mine layer. I mentioned one before, which is the LCMLs. Those low-capacity mine layers tend to drop 1 to 2 small 5 mine traps at most, and comprise shuttle and tug layers, or under the new names, ferryman and, oh god, I just want to say this. Dragger? Droger? Either way, the other archetype is the inverse, HCMLs, or high-capacity mine layers. These comprise the monitor, the container ship, and,
we're on our way.
The creature.
Standing. Bye.
These HCMLs are pretty much limited by points rather than space. If you want, you can shove nearly 100 mines into a monitor, and many more than that into the other
Get it done,
items.
Commander.
That said, I can't really recommend this anymore. The fact that you're looking more at small traps than the big volume deals means having all those mines on one ship is just asking to get hit by a hybrid strike without much gain when the faster, more agile LCMLs exist. That said, that doesn't mean there's no role for HCMLs in the current day, but let's get into some builds. Starting with the LCMLs, we have a shuttle build I personally refer to as a limpet shuttle. This fella rushes some forward position, sometimes directly to the A point, and then tries to slam itself full speed into a piece of cover within 2 kilometers of that location, drop its payload of mines using the belly layer, and then flits onto the point to try to fight enemy cappers with rockets or just otherwise take the point. This is a rather dangerous occupation, but by entering the point itself, many players are going to assume that the rocket shuttle is the only threat. Even if they get within viz range and see the ML9, they rarely assume mines are already down, and provided you do this fast enough, the mines can even activate in time to assist you in the ACAP fight itself. But otherwise, they do a good job at locking down the point once it's capped. These shuttles are also good candidates for mine bombing runs. Next is a community favorite, the multi-mission tug as it's known. Part of the multi-mission, part of the name, can be placing 5 to 10 mines on friendly caps to try and secure them from enemy cappers. There's not much to say here since it's fairly well known outside the mining circle, but keep in mind this very much is a support build and doesn't really hold up well under fire. Now entering the HCMLs, we have a build I've become rather fond of, what I call a garden snail monitor. These fellas, unlike real snails, help tend the Mattock gardens. This is a pure goalie build. It takes the team's natural caps and then sits there pretty much all game to defend them from enemy cappers. These place a good amount of mines. I tend to run about 25 mines per monitor, and then they settle down with their rockets and jammer for enemies to approach.
Commander, they have a target on
us. You begin jamming them with the Bellbird and launching rockets. This has 2 effects. For one, the jamming hurts enemy point defense, both against the rockets and against the mines. And 2, the rockets pretty much instantly saturate enemy point defense networks. If it's a smaller hull, this combination basically ensures their death, while still letting the monitor keep a stock of rockets. If it's a larger hull, you can punch them pretty badly, if not outright kill them, though this does usually exhaust the monitor's rockets. Then again, you're absolutely winning that point trade, and the monitor can go off to go become a capper once its rockets are totally expended. I've had a single garden snail monitor wipe an entire 3K task force out, which is a delicious feeling, and they're pretty cheap for that capability, I said. Now, I'm not going to get into line ship or container builds because, that would be a bad influence, and I would never do that. I cannot stress enough that I do not recommend mine layer line ship builds. And for containers, I don't recommend investing too hard into them either. Some is useful for sure, don't get me wrong, but definitely not all-ins. Use with moderation, if
engaging the enemy.
This is definitely a
missile away.
non-existent
Scope is being
build.
jammed.
This is just what I find myself using, but hopefully it gives a good idea of the type of builds you can use to good effect in the modern Mattock environment. Now, if you want to discuss builds, ask questions, or just talk Mattock tactics,
they've got a lock on us.
There's now a Mattock Wizard server. We do Mattock Monday events and generally just have fun with it, so come check it out if you're interested. Links in the description. Those who are active members may get to learn our most forbidden techniques. Before I let you go, I do have one little, legal disclaimer. Look, if I don't do this, someone or multiple someones are going to assassinate me for ruining OSP pubs. Again. So, just to stress, please do not spam several hundred mines. I don't do this. It is not worth it anymore. My mine sealant is 800 points total, and I only use a handful of mines for defending caps now. If you bring extra mines, spread them around a little. Don't just dump them all on a single cap. But if you have 200 or 300 mines, you're kind of a threat to everyone around you, and you're hurting your team. So please don't. Thank you for your time. I hope you've enjoyed this little, okay, maybe not that little, video on mines. This has been the highest effort video I've produced yet, so thank you again for seeing it through to the end, or skipping, that's cool too. Any feedback on the video would be great in the comments so I know what to do for any future videos. And, well, that's all for me. See you on the Battlespace, Commander.